Back to our top story this morning. Lakers on the brink of elimination facing the Phoenix Suns. Anthony Davis back in the lineup. Only for about 5 minutes, he had to leave again with that groin. It didn't matter because of a guy named Devin Booker who went off last night. Unstoppable, 47 points to help the Suns as they win. LeBron eliminated in round one for the first time ever. Here was Anthony Davis after the loss.
Just wanted to be out there for the team, you know, in a situation, when to go home. Obviously didn't want to just lay down and not be able to do what I can. It never really felt good, but like I said, you know, I once God just a competitive nature in me to go out and help the team, you know, as best as I could. My body didn't agree.
So, Nick, let me ask you, do you think the Lakers would have been better off just not playing Anthony Davis last night?
This is one of the most remarkable and indefensible things I've seen a team medical staff do in professional sports. Like, let me be clear here. I'm not arguing that if Anthony Davis had just been ruled out, the Lakers would have won. We don't know. I do know that they lost the game in the first quarter. The rest of the game, they played actually quite well. They won the remaining quarters, and the first quarter, though, they got absolutely crushed. I mean, Booker was unstoppable. The Lakers had their worst defensive quarter and their worst offensive quarter simultaneously in their biggest quarter of the season, and the game was essentially over from there. But, Brandon, you and I sent almost an identical tweet at the same time without talking to each other, which was... You and I both said 90 seconds into the game, he's not going to make it out of the quarter. You could see it immediately. And as a guy who's gone through, game time decisions, albeit a different sport, pregame warmups, how on earth could the team doctors have watched him move and said, you can play? It was clear to everyone. Grant Hill on the broadcast, Harlan, though I'm sure it was clear to the Suns. This guy can't move. He's grabbing his groin every time up and down the court. He's ginger. How does a guy like that get cleared to play?
Right. I mean, that's a tough decision. And you got to also see the player's side. I go back to my Miami Dolphins days, Nick, playing against the Chicago Bears Thursday Night Football. I go across the middle on a 20-yard in cut. You got Lance Briggs coming to take my head off. I catch the ball in midair, spin while I'm in the air, and I come down, similar to what AD did, and my legs are just flared open, and I snap my hamstring, right? So then I'm out there, and they say, Brandon, it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. I said, Coach, do not scratch me. Just give me until game time to make the decision. So anyways, we had that Thursday night game, so we had a 10-day resting period. So 10 days passed. I'm on the field trying to warm up. Coach Sperano's out there watching. He said, no, you're not good enough. He sat me down. I said, Coach, what are you talking about? We need this game. And he said, no, you're not good enough. As a player, I wanted to play, so I respect AD for that. One of the hardest things to play through as a player is any type of muscle strain. Like any movement, it can go like that. It can go from a mild to a grade 1, from a grade 1, Nick, to a grade 2, from a grade 2 to potentially needing surgery. So this was a big deal and possibly the worst decision Frank Vogel made all year. Now, AD went out there. Yes, you saw it from the beginning. He goes up, get a rebound. He's trying to guard Book, come down on one leg. He's hopping. What are you doing? Take him out. Why did he have to take himself out? You saw the Suns' game plan against him, scheme. You saw CP3 go up to the top. Okay, let's pick. Let's get AD on me. He tried to make a move. Book made a move, and that's probably what sent them out of the game is when Book took him to the basket. Book didn't finish, but AD, you saw him. You saw that he was hurt.
So, Wilds, I want to run a theory by you because this is going to sound conspiratorial, but I think it's actually the most logical conclusion here. So Charles Barkley called Anthony Davis street clothes, right? And there was a lot of commentary about Anthony Davis being soft. And I think Anthony Davis knew he could not go. And listen, I haven't talked to Anthony, obviously. I haven't talked to anybody close to him. This is just a theory. I think he knew he couldn't go, and he almost put himself out there so the world could see he couldn't go. Because nobody, if he had just not played, there would be some questions this morning. Should Anthony Davis have gutted through it? If they had lost and he had just not played the whole game, people would be questioning him. Instead, at halftime, Barkley, who had been eviscerating him the 2 nights before, crushed the Lakers medical staff. Said they need new doctors. How do you put that kid out there? Like, totally was on his side. And so I think AD was like trying to show the world, I'm hurt at the end. But I don't know how you let a guy do that. Obviously, when it's a must-win game and the game got away from the first quarter. But I think that's what happened. I think he wanted everyone to see how hurt he was because he was taking so much flack about it.
I think the roots of this decision are pretty deep. Because if you look at Anthony Davis, he's NCAA champion. He's an NBA champion, but the one thing that people hit him on is that he's injury plagued. So I think he's like, you know what? Let me try to do it. Let me try to put everyone's doubt aside. Maybe, I think he was more optimistic. I don't think he went out there to just go and sit down. But also, you've seen the history of the NBA, when we talk about compromises, I think Willis Reed casts a long shadow on every injured player who's in a playoff game. We know that is an all-time great moment, even though Willis did not have a statistically significant game. But the idea of him coming out of the tunnel and gutting through it feels very NFL-esque. But I thought, Nick, post-Durant Achilles, that the medical staff changed everything. I thought when they let Durant play, Durant said he could go, and they said, you know what, get out there, and he ends up snapping his Achilles. I felt like all medical teams drew everything back and got much more conservative. And that's why we saw Donovan Mitchell, who said he's ready to go. He said, you know what, you're not ready to go. And it was a real source of friction.
That's right.
Now, maybe they were right because Donovan's come out and played great. But I think that there's always a tension between the player and the medical staff. But if Anthony Davis said he wants to go out, the team doctor is not going to force him to sit, because then we would be killing the medical staff. Like, the player knows his own body. So if there's a dangerous compromise, Brandon, especially, and this is what I've got very nervous about. I don't want to wish it into existence.
Right.
But when there's Achilles stuff, that's the one time you'd be like, no. Remember we were talking about Achilles? Sit down. We're not. You have to sit. It's too dangerous.
Anthony Davis. Yep. Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Let's go back to KD. You brought up KD. The deal with KD was he looked good in pregame. He looked good in their pregame walkthrough. And then he went out there and he actually moved around great. And then all of a sudden it just went. You can see it in the replay. You can see it just spiral up his leg. With AD, Schroeder said after the game, he said, look, I respect him because this was a guy that could not even walk. This was a guy, when we did our walkthrough before the game, he couldn't move. Frank Vogel was seeing all of that. So how do you put him out there? And here's the deal. Like, it could be a good moment for AD because I do think that, you know, as a player, there's some injuries you just got to deal with. It's inevitable. We all get injured. But there's some guys that can't push through. They got to learn how to push through. So this was good for AD to do that. But at the end of the day, it hurt your team because you went down 36-14 in the first quarter, like Nick said, Jenna. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, you even won the quarter or tied it. So you really lost that first quarter. And you saw AD. Everybody's sitting around watching AD. Is he okay? You can't put that in your teammate's head. So that was a bad move by Frank Vogel.
Also losing anyways. For the record.
All right, we got much more on that decision by the Lakers and what happened last night still to come. We got to hand out some medals, Nick. Your guy LeBron, in what ended up being his last game of the season, 29-9-7 in that loss to the Suns. So no medal for the Kang. But who did make your playoff podium?
He didn't even make a medal?
I gave it only to winners. Yes, I didn't give LeBron a medal. He went playoff medalist for the playoffs. Bronze medal, Michael Porter Jr. He got this medal based on the first quarter alone. His final stat line's not that great, 26, 5, and 4.